What is a press release really? Because it used to be pretty cut and dry, but now in the digital age, what parts of it are essential? At its core, what must it be?
So generally, it's an announcement to the media. The rule of thumb going back to journalism is that it answers the who, what, when, where, how, and why of what you're announcing. Take that into account. It doesn't have to be very long. It does have to have a headline. And, that's an area for you to position yourself appropriately. But the big mistake I see a lot of end users make with headlines is they write it for the consumer and they'll, use some New York Post puns and stuff like that. But, this is not the headline that is going to be in an article written about you. Journalists write that, or their bosses, managing editors and people like that write the headlines. And so you're writing a headline to get the attention of the journalists, but more specifically, you want to communicate that this is appropriate to them, to their beat, their industry, who they cover. So rather than be clever, boring, detail-oriented headlines work the best. And so you want to communicate your most important aspect right there in the headline. It's often a good idea to mention your company name. Most journalists, their biggest complaint is their inbox is just filled with spam. The biggest mistake people make is they write their press releases from their perspective of this is important to us. And what you have to do is make it important to the journalist. The journalist is a gatekeeper. Their biggest asset is their audience. And they have to decide, is this content that's going to educate or entertain my client, my audience, or ideally both? And so, you have to sometimes reverse engineer your announcement to make sure you're incorporating material that's going to excite and really educate the audience. I think the most popular press release I get is a product launch press release. And it's usually, here's the product, here's a list of features. Sometimes it's just bullets. And then here's a page to learn more and buy. Now, a journalist, all journalists like to follow a story arc. And even if you read small articles, you'll notice they generally follow the story arc. It's near impossible to turn that type of product launch into a story arc. But what you could do is incorporate a use case study. Here was someone who beta tested it. This was their success. Ideally, if you have some numbers around it, that looks really good. And then get a quote by them. And all of a sudden, that's a little story that they can put and better position your product launch. And that makes a journalist probably 10 times more likely to cover your product launch. The one press release that I've never had fail by anybody I've ever coached is to do an industry survey. And so whatever industry you're in, survey other people out there and, get their perspective on things that are trending. What are things that people would want to know from other people in your industry? Are there things that are influencing it? So you can ask questions around that. I always tell people, what are the type of questions that you could not wait to ask other people in your industry at a trade show or conference? Often those could be the type of questions you should consider asking in such a survey. And I like to do 12 to 16 questions, 4 questions per page. And then you take that link, and we don't expect you to have a Rolodex of people in your industry, but there's lots of small and independent trade associations in every industry. Avoid the big one. The big one everyone knows, but do a little Google searches and look around. Approach that association and say, hey, I'm doing this survey. I would love for you to send it out to your members. I'm looking for at least 100 responses for it to be statistically relevant. And in exchange for doing this, I will mention you in a press release I'll be issuing. You look at the results of the survey and pick one, at most two, of the responses that you feel are going to be the biggest surprise for your industry, and then focus and make that the press release. And you're going to provide a little bit of analysis because you're the author of the survey, a quote by you as to why the numbers skewed that way. Everybody I've ever coached doing this, it works. It's a little bit of time involved, but it doesn't have to be very difficult.